It's nearly 7 p.m. on the East Coast right now, and the polls are about to close in Kentucky, Georgia, Virginia, South Carolina, and Vermont. And we'll get to the first look at the big Senate races in Kentucky and Georgia right now, as well as the Georgia governor's race, where Jason Carter, the grandson of the former president, is looking to unseat Republican incumbent Nathan Deal. And, you know, we are waiting for news, because this is after months and months and months. And finally, the crackle of victory and defeat, the agony of defeat, it's all going to come starting in a minute.
Well, in about 10 seconds. Sometimes when you have a poll closing and you have a call right at the poll closing, it tells you a lot more about the race retrospectively than you could have known before that exact moment. Yeah, it wasn't a close one, and in some cases, a lot of the early vote came in, a lot of the absentee vote came in that could have been coded ahead of time. But these are our first results tonight, and the first one is a big one. The NBC News projects that the winner of the Kentucky Senate race is Mitch McConnell. This is being projected at poll closing. Incumbent Senator Mitch McConnell wins in Kentucky, defeats Allison Lundergren Grimes. In Georgia, the Senate race there is being characterized by NBC News as too early to call. This is Michelle Nunn versus David Perdue. That's an open Senate seat in the state of Georgia, a very hotly contested race. NBC News can project the winner in the South Carolina Senate race. Lindsey Graham in South Carolina, incumbent senator, is reelected there. Also in South Carolina, special election for a Senate race there. Tim Scott, the incumbent who is serving out the partial term there, is elected in South Carolina. In the Virginia Senate race, this is interesting. Incumbent Democrat Mark Warner, right now too early to call in his race against Republican Ed Gillespie. Again, that's the Virginia Senate race at this hour. NBC calling it too early to call. Overall, in the Senate at this hour, what we can tell you is there are 33 Republican seats in the Senate. There are 32 Democratic seats in the Senate and 2 independents who have previously caucused with Democrats. But that's the overall balance that we'll be watching tonight in terms of who gets to 50. Now on to some of the governor's races. Georgia not only has a tightly fought Senate race, they've also got a governor's race that right now NBC is calling too early to call. This is Jason Carter, the Democrat, and Nathan Deal, the incumbent Republican governor. In South Carolina, NBC News can project that the winner of the South Carolina governor's race is the incumbent governor, Republican Nikki Haley. In other governor's races this hour, we can take you to the great state of Vermont. Peter Shumlin is the incumbent Democrat there. Scott Milne is his Republican challenger. At this point, they're calling this too early to call. One thing to know about this Vermont governor's race is that there is a 50% threshold for winning a race like this. It makes it a different threshold for calling, and a different threshold for winning than you'll see in some other races. But at this point, NBC News says in Vermont, it is too early to call between Peter Shumlin and his Republican challenger, Scott Milne. Fascinating. Mitch McConnell,
nice guys finished first. Anyway, no more comment on that one.
We don't know if he's going to be majority leader. We don't know if the Republicans are going to win the Senate, but we know that he's going to be back.
Interesting race, I think, in Virginia. Mark Warner's a very successful and I thought, safe incumbent. The fact that Ed Gillespie, the former chair of the party, had the guts to run against him and is apparently running a good campaign shows audacity, which is what politics is all about. It's about ego and audacity. You're willing to take on the tough race. Looks like he's going to keep it close long enough to make it a good fight. He'll be the next governor. That's what that race is about. He wants to be Terry McAuliffe. They were both at Catholic U together. It's just his chance to match Terry McAuliffe. These little intramural fights are fascinating to watch.
Do you think this Senate race is about running for governor? This is set up for
governor. Yeah, that's what you do. You run once, win the next time. That's true in Georgia. Jason Carter, you think this is his last run for governor? Took his grandfather a while.
At age 39.
He will run again, and he'll get it eventually, because the way you get your name out there, unless you're a born zillionaire or self-financer, run a few times. That's how Bob Casey's made it in Pennsylvania, both of them. You run a few times, people get used to you, they get to trust you, and then you finally get the job. So it's about endurance. I do think it's interesting, however, we've probably given on our program, on Hardball, you've probably done the same, given more attention to the Kentucky race than any race in the country. And yet here we see good old Mitch McConnell chunking in $2 million of his own money at the last minute. I'm sure his wife is probably saying, why'd you spend that money? It was easy. We wasted.
It could have been closer, and then we paid
for a landslide. Why'd we pay for a blowout? So it's a little funny, but it is sad, because this is a young woman, audacity again. She had the audacity to run against this incredibly powerful incumbent with all the tricky moves he had up his sleeve, and sarcasm and ridicule, all those tricks. She'll be back. She's going to try again and probably go for another race for the Senate.
And especially because she's so close to the Clintons, who we clearly haven't seen the last of for the next couple of years.
She might be the candidate.
Yeah.
Mitch McConnell also is, you know, Harry Reid pulled out that 2010 victory by a nose, and he knew his state and he worked his state, and Harry Reid is not an accidental politician. I think sometimes when you watch Harry Reid and Mitch McConnell from the perspective of the cameras, from the perspective of their performance as orators, you think, really, these guys? These are the guys that are running their caucuses? When you watch them engage in these kinds of operations where they know every local chieftain, where they know how to work their states and what parts of their states need, these guys are pros, both of them.
You've been ruling for 30 years.
They know what they're doing.
Well, by the way, dirty little secret of the Senate, they don't want George Clooney as their spokesman.
No, they do not. That is right.
They don't want somebody that's going to outshine them or be better looking or anything. They want a guy that's going to keep the day going, keep the jobs going, make sure they keep their job.
Well, the word to use with those guys is careful. They know where their vote is, and they carefully and methodically go after that vote. McConnell never, I mean, yeah, there was concern early on, but at the end of the day, he knew where he had to get his vote. And then, of course, he always counts on his opponent to fumble the ball.
I love George F. Will. He's been around forever. He's a very consistent conservative columnist. And he said, Mitch McConnell's been compared to looking like me. And he said, sharp but true. It's not about charisma. Let's go right now to somebody who's there on the ground. Perry Bacon's there. He's our senior political reporter. He's on the ground at headquarters. How's the nice guy handling his apparent victory here?
They haven't actually announced it here yet, so people are still kind of waiting. But the numbers are called. We're told tonight McConnell's going to give a speech, but he's going to talk about Kentucky. He's not going to stay up, honestly, to see who won Alaska and that kind of thing. They're going to clear us out at midnight, they told us. So he's going to give a speech about Kentucky tonight, and then tomorrow he's going to talk about the broader implications of if he's in a majority leader or what he wants to do next. So wait on his sort of broader remarks about his views on being majority leader or maybe not being majority leader by tomorrow, but not tonight.
Perry, are you saying that right now they don't know that NBC News has projected Mitch McConnell to be the winner of this race?
McConnell's staff does, we just told them, but as far as the audience itself right now, they have not cheered. They don't know this yet. That's why we were sort of waiting for that to happen, but they've not put in the screen yet the projection itself. So we're still waiting on that, the excitement that'll be here for his victory, which of course was not. So people here also, in this crowd, there's a lot of political operatives here, and now you're hearing it for the first time. People are now, there you go.
Hey, Kentucky, don't mean to let you in on the secret, but
Your guy won.
Here's a little something that you supposedly have been dying to hear. Well, Perry, feel free to just start shouting in case it's going to make people buy you drinks. We'll be checking back in with you, Perry Bacon at McConnell headquarters. Thank you.